Shalom, Yashala, Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to the Most High Yahweh. I do so in the name of His only begotten Son, Yahweh Shai. Double honors to the elders of Yashala. Call Holoyim Yahweh by Hashem Yahweh Shai by Hashem Harakakodash for blessing our elders with the spirit of truth so that we may know. Shout out to the Akim and the Aquathium that's keeping the faith in the works. Y'all keep at it. It's your brother Abai coming at you with more precepts. This is the book of Psalms, chapter 58 and verse 3. It says, "The wicked are estranged from the womb. They go astray as soon as they be born, speaking lies." That's a trait of the wicked. I'm not going to go into too much commentary with this video because the topic is kind of sensitive. And if I say certain things, the algorithm will pick it up, probably give me a strike, probably take my channel down, whatever. So we're going to make it do what it do, man. Without further ado.
So Rand Paul and Dr. Fauci got into it again. I bet you at this point, Fauci dreads anything to do with Rand Paul and is plotting that man's demise.
Dr. Fauci, as you are aware, it is a crime to lie to Congress. Section 1001 of the U.S. Criminal Code creates a felony.
I found that funny. It has nothing to do with Fauci. But you watch this woman in the blue, Dr. Woodcock. You see her moving as he's speaking, her little condescending smile towards Rand Paul. I'm sure they all don't like him. I mean, this woman in the black jacket is literally looking down her nose. But watch what happens, and it's very quick as far as how long it stays on her, but it's long enough to see that stressed her. Oh, lie to Congress. Oh, instant freeze. It's like, holy shit. I digress. Anyways, that was a funny.
Section 1001 of the U.S. Criminal Code creates a felony and a 5-year penalty for lying to Congress. On your last trip to our committee on May 11th, you stated that the NIH has not ever and does not now fund gain-of-function research in the Wuhan Institute of Virology. And yet, gain-of-function research was done entirely in the Wuhan Institute by Dr. Shi and was funded by the NIH. I'd like to ask unanimous consent to insert into the record the Wuhan virology paper entitled "Discovery of a Rich Gene Pool of Bat SARS-Related Coronaviruses." Please deliver a copy of the journal article to Dr. Fauci. In this paper, Dr. Shi credits the NIH and lists the actual number of the grant that she was given by the NIH. In this paper, she took 2 bat coronavirus genes, spike genes, and combined them with a SARS-related backbone to create new viruses that are not found in nature. These lab-created viruses were then shown to replicate in humans. These experiments combine genetic information from different coronaviruses that infect animals but not humans to create novel artificial viruses able to infect human cells. Viruses that in nature only infect animals were manipulated in the Wuhan lab to gain the function of infecting humans. This research fits the definition of the research that the NIH said was subject to the pause in 2014 to 2017, a pause in funding on gain of function. But the NIH failed to recognize this, defines it away, and it never came under any scrutiny. Dr. Richard E. Bright, a molecular biologist from Rutgers, described this research in Wuhan as the Wuhan lab used NIH funding to construct novel chimeric SARS-related coronaviruses able to infect human cells and laboratory animals. This is high-risk research that creates new potential pandemic pathogens that exist only in the lab, not in nature. This research matches, these are Dr. E. Bright's words, this research matches, indeed epitomizes, the definition of gain-of-function research done entirely in Wuhan, for which there was supposed to be a federal pause. Dr. Fauci, knowing that it is a crime to lie to Congress, do you wish to retract your statement of May 11th where you claimed that the NIH never funded gain-of-function research in Wuhan?
Senator Paul, I have never lied or
microphone, Doc.
Your microphone. So he's aggravated. He's so aggravated he forgot about his whole position on this mic thing. That doesn't take a genius to sit there and say, oh, he's aggravated and extremely stressed. But the interesting part that I find is the rescue issue.
Senator Paul, I have never lied before the Congress, and I do not retract that statement.
So you see the believe me look. Every time he talks at this point, he's raising up and hunching himself. He's getting very stiff.
This paper that you are referring to was judged by qualified staff up and down the chain as not being gain of function. Let me finish.
You take an animal virus and you increase its transmissibility to humans.
Right.
You're saying that's not gain of function?
Yeah, that is correct. And Senator Paul, you do not know what you are talking about, quite frankly. And I want to say that officially. You do not know what you are talking.
So this is the interesting part. He's starting to look. You do not know what you are talking about. And he looks over, whom I can only assume, because it happens again, to the person having the say in this committee. So he's looking to her.
About.
Let's
Okay,
read
you
the
get
NIH,
one person.
Let's read from the NIH
Chair, can I
definition of
answer
gain
the
of
question?
function.
So again, he looks towards her again. Madam Chair, he wants backup. He wants to be rescued. Or in a sense of he wants strength behind him because his strength is gone. Now prior, Dr. Fauci, he didn't need the strength of the people in the room because he had it kind of hidden. And I mean hidden in the sense of, metaphorically, you go into a restaurant and you definitely can pay the bill, but you look like a homeless person or a lot of people disrespect you. But you know it's okay because you can pretty much buy the place. Now he's going into the restaurant and he's broke and he's trying to pretend as if he has money and the people don't respect him. And he's looking now for allies in the restaurant. And in this case, Congress.
This is your definition that you guys wrote. It says that scientific research that increases the transmissibility among animals is gain of function. They took animal viruses that only occur in animals and they increased their transmissibility to humans. How you can say that is not gain of function?
It is not.
It's a dance, and you're dancing around this because you're trying to obscure responsibility for 4 million people dying around the world
Okay.
from a pandemic.
And let's send Dr. Fauci.
I have to, well, now you're getting into something. If the
So you hear her rescue him and let him speak.
point that you are making is that the grant that was funded as a sub-award from EcoHealth.
And now you see him with his hand up. So he's physically showing he wants Rand Paul to stop. And he's trying to keep him at bay with this hand as he's speaking with it. It's closed, it's up in a stop motion. Stop, 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 stop. And he's still stressed. So the little bit of rescue that this woman said, let him speak, basically, isn't enough to calm that part of the mind that says, I have friends. Now the mind is into the mindset because the stress is so high, he's trying to keep that person. And usually when humans do this, they overdo it, which is what you see him do as he freaks out.
To Wuhan created SARS-CoV-2. That's where you are getting.
And there's the freak out.
Let me finish.
We don't know.
Well,
we don't
wait
know
a
if
minute.
it did
I
come
can-
from the lab, but all the evidence is pointing that it came from the.
He's shaking. He's going up higher and higher, not only in his octave, but in his body. He's trying to be bigger, trying to be louder than his foe.
lab, and there will be responsibility for those who funded the lab, including.
As you see contrast to Rand Paul here, Dr. Rand Paul. His voice is getting lower. He is not afraid because he has strength. Whereas Fauci's getting higher because he is afraid.
Including yourself.
I totally
This committee
resent.
will allow the witness to
I
respond.
totally resent the lie that you are now propagating, Senator, because if you look at the viruses that were used in the experiments, that were given in the annual reports, that were published in the literature, it is molecularly impossible.
No one's saying those viruses caused it.
It
No
is
one is alleging that
molecularly.
those viruses caused.
So you see him now, he's continuously looking towards the chairwoman to tell him to shut up. Take my side. Silence him for me. And she is not doing it. He's constantly looking for that rescue. and she is ignoring it, and she gives him a token bone every once in a while.
Because of the pandemic, what we're alleging is that
And she did not. She is letting Rand Paul chew that head off. So most of us have heard the conspiracy about what's going on with Fauci and Gates. That it appears that the elites are throwing them under the bus. Now, we don't really see Gates coming out and having conversations these days, ever since his divorce was announced. But Fauci has come out and talked. And so my curiosity when it comes to these conspiracy theories is to see what kind of reaction are we giving off.
The book of Psalms, chapter 64 and verse 8. So they shall make their own tongue to fall upon themselves. All that see them shall flee away. All right. They're telling on themselves.
Does it give validity to the conspiracy or does it not?
Senator Rand Paul, who you've tangled with in the past, basically suggesting that you and the NIH funded risky research that eventually down the line is connected to COVID-19. I don't want to dwell on this for too long, but I did want to give you that chance to react to his comments today.
Yeah, I mean, that's actually preposterous. And I mean, to bring something that up is really not helpful. He was saying we funded a kind of research.
So we got Fauci being Fauci. It's hard for me to call him a doctor. Sorry. But he seems to be angled towards the side. And we're in a Zoom call, so it's kind of hard to pinpoint the why on the side movement, at least from the get-go. Because he could be coming from the side because the angle of his monitor and the person he's talking to is at an odd way. We don't know yet. We can see that he's very stiff. And he appears to have his arms in a way that looks like his hands are gripping his chair or are in an unnatural state of grabbing something around him for support.
China that could lead to dangerous research. That's not the case. So what he was saying was just absolutely not true. It's really unfortunate.
So as he finishes that up, which is not the case, and then you see his arms actually move from that uncomfortable and unnatural support system to a more relaxed. So we start out with the most stress, and then we end with going into the next part of his subject, which is the attack on Rand Paul, which says that the stress in the beginning of this was his BS.
Fortunate that he brought that up. It really does nothing but cloud the issue of what we're trying to do. So it was just, unfortunate that he said that.
You also notice he moves a little more as he attacks Rand Paul, who deserves to be called a doctor.
It was said in an accusatory way that just made no sense and was not based in any fact at all.
And as he wraps that up, we see that stressed smile as he ends it, tight-lipped, holding back. There are a couple of things that go through the mind when you do this. Tighten those lips up. You don't want to look like a fool. That's one scenario. Did I say something I shouldn't have? That's another scenario, which I think applies more to this situation.
That has been the subject of a lot of our fact-checking on the coronavirus for the past year.
That is freaking hilarious. I just noticed this. Many of you young people probably won't get this, but you older ones will recognize this. Liar, liar, pants on fire. And you see on this woman's shelf next to the plant, pants on fire. It really makes you think that they're throwing him under the bus.
And like you said, there's a lot of cloudiness around the origins of COVID-19 still. So I wanted to ask, are you still confident that it developed naturally?
No, actually, that's the point that I said.
So there we go. She asked this very loaded question. Kudos to her for that. And he's instantly adjusting himself. People adjust themselves in very stressful situations because their muscles need to relax. Think of it like you run. You have to stop and relax. The body in a stressful situation, even though you don't see massive activity, the muscles are tense, they're tight, they need to relax. So you stretch them out, you move it around. That's a huge tell that someone is trying to untension themselves.
President Biden is warning that COVID cases will go up before they come down. The comment comes as the U.S. marks an important milestone. 50% of Americans are now fully vaccinated against COVID. That's according to the White House. At the same time, we're grappling with the reality that increasingly people may get infected or even reinfected even though they've been vaccinated. To get a better understanding of what's going on here, I spoke with Dr. Anthony Fauci, director of the U.S. National Institute of Allergies and Infectious Diseases. I started by asking him what he's most concerned about the Delta variant or the other variants coming next.
I'm concerned about the Delta variant because, as you well know, this is now the dominant variant. 93% of the isolates in the United States are Delta. We have 93 million people who are eligible to be vaccinated who have not gotten vaccinated yet. We really do hope that we will get the majority, if not the majority, the overwhelming majority of those people vaccinated. If you look at the numbers and the slope of the inflection curve of new cases per day, it clearly has taken a very bad turn. Remember a couple of months ago when we came down from that high slope we were on, we were down to around 10 to 15,000 infections per day on a 7-day average. We are now up to 70,000 plus, and yesterday and the day before we had over 100,000 infections. Interestingly, these are very much concentrated in certain areas with low vaccination rate. And interestingly also, 2 states, Texas and Florida, are accounting for a very disproportionately high proportion, something like 40% of the infections. Florida is leading the charge on that with about 20+% of the infections occurring in just 1 out of the 50 states. So this is an outbreak, an unfortunate outbreak, heavily predominantly among the unvaccinated. So the Delta that we're dealing with now troubles me for the reasons I just mentioned. The second part of your question is also important. As long as you have virus freely circulating in society the way it's doing now with 100,000 cases a day, you give ample opportunity to the virus to continue to mutate. And it is conceivable, I hope not, but it is conceivable that that could mutate into a variant that's even more problematic than the Delta variant. So I'm concerned on 2 fronts, on what's going on now and what could conceivably happen if we don't get control of this virus.
One thing that I want to talk about is vaccine hesitancy, and one of the contributing factors to that is the lack of FDA approval. Is there anything that could be done to speed that up?
That's a great, and it wins the prize for the most asked question. So here's the situation we're faced with. The FDA is an independent agency. In order to maintain the credibility when they say something, that it is now safe and effective, finally in the final approval, as opposed to an EUA, that you want to make sure you don't do anything that in fact or in appearance looks like you're influencing that decision.
Right.
And that's the reason why you never hear public health officials, including myself, trying to get ahead of the FDA. The only thing...
Think of it like you run. You have to stop and relax. The body in a stressful situation, even though you don't see massive activity, the muscles are tense, they're tight, they need to relax. So you stretch them out, you move it around. That's a huge tell that someone is trying to untension themselves, release the stress. And we're seeing him do that. He heard that question, went instantly tense. So by the time we get back for him to answer the question, he is trying to stretch it out.
I think the real unfortunate aspect of what Senator Paul...
And there we go back into the unnatural support that he gives himself with his arms. I would have to say at this point, the conspiracy is looking very validated. This is not some plan that he was part of, like, yeah, I'll take the hit. This is someone coming out and trying to defend himself and being very stressed about doing it to people he once considered allies.
Paul did is he was conflating research in a collaborative way with Chinese scientists, which was, you'd almost have to say if we did not do that, we would almost be irresponsible, because SARS-CoV-1 clearly originated in China, and we were fortunate to escape a major pandemic. So we really had to learn a lot more about the viruses that were there, about whether or not people were getting infected with bad viruses.
So in a very minor collaboration as part of a subcontract of a grant, we had a collaboration with some Chinese scientists. And what he conflated that is that therefore we were involved in creating the virus, which is the most ridiculous, majestic leap I've ever heard of. But no, I'm not convinced about that. I think that we should continue to investigate what went on in China.
So as he sits there and talks about his word salad on what he thinks, oh, that's ridiculous that, we were involved, even though he pretty much says, well, we funded him. His whole lower body, from the neck down, is extremely stiff. He's got his arms in that unnatural support system that we cannot really see. We just know from the angle and how it's moving that it's not natural. And the only thing moving on him is his bobble head. That is a deceptive body. And I think we've seen enough to answer our question.
So, Most High willing, you were able to read between that line. You were able to catch all of that, right? And Most High willing, these precepts and this video were edifying. If you still can't understand what's going on, if you still in the dark about what the truth really is, ooh, man, Yahweh be with you. And Most High willing, you'll be one of those that wake up right on time, right in the nick of time in order to receive your salvation. Because it ain't about you being in the truth 30, 40, 50 years. It's about being in the truth, period. Staying in the truth until it's time for us to leave, right? Call Halom Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shah Ba'Shem Harakak Shalom Yashalom.